This is what I think about Tallinn, Estonia. I've been there a number of times, 6 times actually, and this was a long time ago. It was in 1998. It was 14 years ago. And the reason for going there was that I frequently paid visits to St. Petersburg, Russia, and I always traveled through Tallinn from Sweden to get there. I've been there in the wintertime, and I've been there in summer, and I especially remember the summer of 1998. I drove to Tallinn. That is, I took my car on the ferry to Tallinn. So I had my own car there, and I drove to St. Petersburg through Estonia. And my car was an old Audi 100, and it was in very poor condition. It was a wreck, and if it was in poor condition before going to Russia, it was in even worse condition after returning from St. Petersburg, because I was there for about a month, and I was driving around in St. Petersburg. You know, the streets in that city, they were really awful, because there was almost no maintenance of the streets, so lots of potholes and tracks from the trams, so that really beat up your car really badly. And I remember driving around in south side St. Petersburg, and suddenly I see a pipe sticking up out of in the street, in the middle of the street, so I had to just avoid that, and I did that because I could have hit that pipe. And I drove around there, and at one time I heard a noise, and that was because the chassis of the car broke, the suspension broke. So I stopped my car there. I couldn't drive it further. That particular incident gave me a hard time, because it was not easy to find a decent towing company and auto repair shop. Back then were a lot of scammers around, especially that was a problem if you were being a foreigner there. And they could easily fool you. I found a towing company, so they took my car, and they managed to weld the chassis, because they had no parts, so they could not replace this suspension. It became very hard for me to drive that car after they did their repair. When I drove it, it always turned to the right all the time, so I had to keep tight to the steering wheel. So I returned. I was on my way back to Sweden. I did not want to go home directly. I wanted to stay in Tallinn for a while, because before that I was there only very briefly. So it was summertime, and I wanted to learn about the city. And so I drove back to Tallinn. It was summer, it was warm, and I didn't want to drive a lot. One reason was because of they drive, in Estonia and Russia, they drive more aggressively than I'm used to. So I didn't want to end up in an accident. Actually, at the port, one time I saw a Swedish registered Ford Scorpio. It was wrecked totally, because it had been involved in an accident. So he had to tow his wrecked car onto the ferry and bring it back to Sweden, because obviously he couldn't scrap it in Estonia. So that turned out to be a major problem if you wrecked your car there. So I avoided driving. I drove around a little bit, but then I parked my car at the beach. They have a very nice beach there. It's called the Pirita Beach. In the summertime, you can bathe in the Baltic Sea. Yeah, I actually lived in my car for about 5 days, and I was not driving, as I said, a lot. I walked in the city. I was prowling the streets of Tallinn, and I like Tallinn a lot because it's not very big city. It's kind of small, although it's the capital, but it's very easy to navigate the city. When you arrive in the port, you can take a walk, 10-minute walk, and you will reach the inner city, the old town, and they have some nice architecture buildings there, kind of medieval street pattern, and they have some churches, and they also have a tower, an old tower. It's called the Round Tower, I think, or the Fat Margarita or something. And cobblestone streets. It's kind of neat, quaint place. Lots of tourists, cruise tourists arrive there. I was there in the old town. And then during the day, I usually went to the railway station. I used to hang out there, and they had a hamburger bar next to the railway station. I usually ordered a meal there. I remember especially one time, it was about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and I entered this hamburger restaurant, and there were two guys sitting there in the morning. They had what big bottle of vodka, and they drank right out of the bottle, and had hamburgers, listening to a scooter. How much is the fish? Which was a very popular tune back then. And they also had a flea market and opposite of the railway station, which I frequently visited. And also there was a bar, small bar, close to the tracks at the railway station. Where I spent lots of time there, drinking beer. They have sake there, very popular. Tastes good. I had a couple of those. I was also traveling a bit on the commuter trains. I paid a visit to Paldiski. It's close to Tallinn. You can take the train to that small village. It used to be a Soviet naval base. Most people there were Russian speaking, and it was sort of a very Soviet-like place. This was in '98, so about 7 years after Estonia became independent. So this was nothing really had changed there since Soviet times. As I've said, I slept in my car, and that was not very comfortable. So after a couple of days, my back started aching, and so I decided to go back. That was a nice experience. Very interesting to see Tallinn for a couple of days and live there. I lived in my car, so I did not spend very much money because I didn't have any money to spend. So, but that was Tallinn. So that's how I remember Tallinn.